Okay. Just be a moment. Welcome everyone to Wikipedia Weekly during Wikimania. Glad to join today with the second session during the Unconference from Open Foundation West Africa. And this talk is on Kiwix4schools in Ghana, enhancing access during the pandemic. We have Ruby, and welcome Ruby.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ruby. I'm the programs manager and I double as the administrative executive for Open Foundation West Africa. I'm here with my colleague Maxwell. Maxwell, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
All right, thank you very much. So my name is Maxwell Biganim and also the training associate for Open Foundation West Africa. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so today we'll be sharing with you how we're using Kiwix as a tool to enhance equitable access to educational resources during the pandemic. And so I'll give the floor to Maxwell to take the lead, and then I'll come in.
All right, thank you very much, Ruby. So the background to the whole presentation is just for us to understand that during the 74th UN General Assembly, 28th September was declared as the International Day for Universal Access to Information at the United Nations. That was in October 2019. Now, this tells us that access to information was very important and was very relevant in the 21st century, or is relevant in the 21st century. And then fast forward in 2016, internet also was declared as the fundamental human right. Okay, so this is the problem statement that we came up with. In fact, there are multiple problems, but then we were able to categorize the problem under these three indicators. So the first one that we identified was the fact that there is a digital divide. And then to explain that further, we are talking about access. So there is a dichotomy in Ghana where you realize that we have the grade A schools and then we have grade B schools, and also we have the class kind of system where the haves and then the have-nots, and also the rural and then the urban. So there's always been this dichotomy that is posing a problem when it comes to access. Then another layer talks about the gender divide, where we have a lot of males or a lot of males going into or having access to internet, IT, smartphones as compared to their lady counterparts. So you realize that there is that gender divide, particularly when you look at the IT ecosystem. You realize that there are more females than there are more males than more females. So that is also one problem that we identified. And then lastly, we realized inadequate IT infrastructure, that there is not enough infrastructure to accommodate this whole IT when it comes to the players, when it comes to the smart devices, when it comes to laptops. Even old age computers are obsolete, or we can't find them in here. So that is posing a problem. Now, the World Foundation has estimated that an amount of 428 billion would be needed in the internet space to connect everybody by 2030. And now the question is, if we are waiting for this money to be raised amidst all the issues that we have, then the problem is going to exacerbate as and when. So then the onus was on us to look at how we can bridge or solve some of these issues that have been raised. And so the question then comes, what is Kiwix? So Kiwix is an offline educational tool that enables students or people to have access to content that ordinarily would have been online, but then it is offline for easy access. So there is books that you can access that with Project Gutenberg, TED videos, other educational materials, Wikipedia, Wiktionary, etc., etc. So it serves as a platform that you can be able to access content for free without paying anything. And so this is how the journey started. So in 2016, Felix Nete piloted this project in a very remote area in Ghana, in the northern part of Ghana, to be precise. And then based on that pilot, we were able to understand and come up with this problem statement, and we realized that the digital divide is so wide as compared to other areas, to also be specific. Now we understudied that project, and in 2019, Maxwell, that is me, also piloted or continued the project by understanding it in a different setting in 4 schools. Now, during that project phase, we had knowledge about the real situation at the grassroots level to understand what the digital divide really is, to engage with the students, to engage with teachers, to really know what the problem is, and also look at possible solutions and how Kiwix can solve some of their problems. And then as we were on the project, that is when the COVID-19 hit. So it was the COVID-19 also came to really expose some of these bottlenecks that we have in terms of access and then education as well. So I'll leave so 120,000 students were trained, and then 95% of students had never heard of Kiwix before, which was very alarming when we started engaging them. And 70% of teachers reported to have never heard of Wikipedia. And this is also very alarming, because these are the duty bearers, or these are the ones who are custodians, or are serving as a mini repository of knowledge for their students. And if they do not have information about Wikipedia or access, then that poses a huge problem for us. Then together, students and teachers, over 99% had never heard of Kiwix. And so I'll let Ruby take over from here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Max. So in 2021, we implemented this project, and we also conducted some few surveys to gather some responses from those that participated in the project. And these were some of the highlights that we would like to share. So when we talk about methodology, the methodology that we adopted for this project was to open a Kiwix4schools mini grant. So we officialized the project and called it Kiwix4schools, and then we opened a Kiwix4schools mini fund last year. And so the whole idea of the Kiwix4schools mini fund was to empower volunteers to take up or lead these projects into schools within their region. And so what we did was that we opened the fund, and then we asked volunteers within the community who are interested in implementing the project to apply. And so at the end of the day, we came up with a list of 10 volunteers through the application process, and then we built their capacity. We showed them what Kiwix is. We gave them practical experience, and also provided them support in terms of getting access to schools, getting them maybe letters for schools that required those letters. And for some volunteers, the schools were actually their alma mater, and so it was kind of easy for them to go to the school to give back to society through their volunteer work. So at the end of the day, we visited 11 schools, which the project is supposed to end by the end of this year. We have touched on 5 regions, and we had 458 participants participating in the survey. that was conducted. So these are some of the regions that we have touched on. You can see we went to the Upper West. We've touched in some schools in the Northern region, Volta, Ashanti region, and the Eastern region. So when you look at this graph, it shows you the number of schools that we visited in each region. So in Ashanti region, we've impacted 4 schools, in Volta region, 3 schools, Upper West 2, Northern region 1, in Eastern region 1. One of the challenging problems whilst these volunteers, community members were implementing this project was that most of the schools had unmatched computer to student ratio, which in as much as we wanted to make an impact, this was also something that was challenging, because if we want to make access to information to as many people and there aren't enough infrastructures that meet the need or the demand of these resources, it's something that needs to be looked at. And so the ratio was quite large, about 1 computer is to over 90 students when we combined the average for all the schools. When we asked students about their knowledge of internet, whether they've ever had access to go on the internet, it was quite impressive to know that a lot of students now are aware of the internet and have one way or the other use the internet, either by using their parents' phone or a colleague's phone, or maybe gone somewhere, or maybe in their school where maybe they have had the opportunity to access the internet. So 88% of the students said they had had access to internet before, and 11.57% said they had not. That is quite encouraging. And when we asked students whether they had any knowledge about Wikipedia, just a little over half of them said they were aware that there's something called Wikipedia, but the rest of the half were not aware and they didn't know what Wikipedia was. We also wanted to know whether they know about any offline resources that they can use for their studies, which we emphasized, we highlighted Kiwix, and close to 100% of the students said they haven't heard about Kiwix, which was quite, yeah. So we also wanted to know from the student that said they have had opportunity to be on the internet, what exactly did they use the internet for? And so we had students, a lot of students saying they actually used their internet to download music, to watch videos. Some said they had used social media, which, for instance, WhatsApp or Facebook, and some also said they used it to play games, and others to do video calls. And others also said they used it to access information generally. So whenever they needed information and they had opportunity to have a cell phone, they would just browse something that they are interested in to look for that information. And other students said they also used the internet to study whenever they had the opportunity to. So these were some of the feedback that we got in terms of internet uses. And we also wanted to find out what students relied on for their studies. And so we had a lot of students saying that they actually relied on their textbooks for their studies. And we had others saying they sometimes used phones or computers, and others said they had to use the school library, which was the only library that they could have access to. So these were some of the things that students had access to. And so going through all these projects, trying to get feedback from volunteers and all that through the feedbacks that were collected, we realized that one of the challenging things that was experienced was lack of ICT infrastructure at the school, because the whole idea is to make this resource available on the computer laboratories or the computers that were in the computer lab of the schools. But looking at comparing the student population that we gathered to the number of computers that were in the school, the gap was so huge that we had a ratio of 1:99 students as an average when we combined all the schools together. And another challenging thing that we experienced, because we did not use a Raspberry Pi to implement this Kiwix project, it was kind of a bit stressful for volunteers, because they had to use a hard drive or a pen drive to install on each one of the computers, and that took a lot of time, and that also required some of the volunteers to do that a day before the event itself or the training itself. And so that also took a lot of time. And we also realized that most of the content that we could actually have access to put on on Kiwix was lacking localized content. In as much as these complementary educational resources are of use to the student, we thought that it would be very important to have some sort of localized content that are tailored to suit the need of the student on it, so that they can have opportunity on both sides. And so moving forward, we're looking at maybe having more partnership, especially with the government institutions that are into education, to give us a right to have some of these contents and curriculums, Ghanaian curriculum materials to put on Kiwix to benefit students, especially during this pandemic where students have had to learn more on their own. And we also think that moving forward, we would love to make use of a Raspberry Pi, which makes it easier. A Raspberry Pi actually acts like a Wi-Fi that feeds Kiwix to anyone who has a smart device. So if you have a computer, you have a phone, you have whatever device, you'll be able to connect just like you connect to the Wi-Fi. And that makes it more easy. All that you need to do is to just plug it. So that makes it more easy if we could have Raspberry Pi in each of the schools that we go to. And it also increases usability, because then anyone can connect. It doesn't have to be installed on a computer lab or on a computer, sorry. And moving forward, we also want to design programs that offers opportunity to other individuals in other African countries or wherever you are, to be able to learn from what we've done, train you, provide some kind of mentorship, and then for you to be able to implement the program in your region or your country, or whichever way that you want to use it for. And here are some of the pictures just to feed your eyes. And these are some of the pictures that were taken during the Kiwix4schools projects. And it was very impactful. We've had teachers asking us to come and implement the project in their school. And so I'll be sharing with you another video. So just bear with me. I'll be sharing with you a video. Okay. About the project. Oh. Sorry. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm sorry.
To educational resources. For most teachers and learners in Africa, access to educational resources continue to be a challenge. Part of this problem can be attributed to the high cost of internet or poor internet connectivity, which is often not reliable or available at all. This has forced many students and teachers to rely solely on textbooks for learning and teaching, respectively, depriving them the opportunity to access complementary forms of educational content that the internet offers. The Kiwix4schools project is an initiative that is aimed at offering a sustainable solution to challenges around the internet access for teachers and learners. Kiwix is a free software that brings knowledge to millions around the world by making online educational resources available offline. From browsing Wikipedia to reading books from Gutenberg Library or watching TED Talks to searching for a meaning of word on Wiktionary, Kiwix alleviates the burden of poor or high internet costs for teachers and learners. The amazing thing about Kiwix is that one can determine the content that is put on to suit its users. Since 2018, we have trained over 5,000 students and about 100 teachers in over 6 regions in Ghana, making Kiwix accessible to over 2 million student population. We are excited about this project and how it is impacting teaching and learning experience for both teachers and students. In the famous words of Shai Bishop, when you educate one person, you can change a life, and when you educate many, you can change a world. Let's change the world today. Yeah, so that is basically the brief outcome of the study, and we're looking forward to doing more in the coming year, trying to learn from some of the experiences and improve the way that we implement this project to yield a greater impact. Maxwell, would you want to say something?
Yes, so I think that going forward, we've had discussions with some organizations and then other individuals who are also interested in being a part of the Kiwix project, because for me, I think it's something that I think is going to help, particularly those in the global south, because if you look at the gender situation or the gender divide and then the digital divide, it keeps on widening. So if Kiwix would serve as an alternative, then I think everybody should jump on and then let's get this doing. So I'll just also be appealing to the others that if you want to reach us, we are always ready to work with you.
I think Jesse wanted to say something. And also,
Okay,
if you have questions, you can put your questions in the comment section. We can see all of it, and then we'll address your question.
Okay, so I believe that Kiwix is the future. We know that without Kiwix, most of us youth coming out will not be able to find any educational content that we need for free. Kiwix is will be key for us now and comes on, because you know that Wikimania or the Wikipedia Society has a lot of free programs that is going to offer to its students. Comparing Kiwix, I believe that having all the knowledge at stake will be key for everyone who partakes in the Kiwix project. So I would like to see everyone join us and also gain some form of knowledge adopting Kiwix into their system. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if anyone has any questions for the panelists. Yeah, Otto says this issue gets worse when you get to the rural areas, and that's very true because usually what we notice is that when it comes to schools in the more urban areas like Accra, some of the schools don't feel the need for such a tool, and so we haven't been able to implement Kiwix in Accra. But when you go beyond the city and you visit other areas that are kind of remote, you realize that there's a very dying need for it. And this is something that we're looking at scaling up gradually so that each school can benefit from this resource. There was a time that I visited a secondary school, and it would amaze you that teachers are not even able to keep up on staying online, to even just buy a little data to be on WhatsApp. And so these teachers cannot even stay on WhatsApp, let alone to talk about affording a great deal of data to be doing research. And so you wonder how people who are leaders uh, of impacting knowledge to our generation are not able to do the required research because day in and day out, technology is improving, information is changing, and a whole lot of things are improving. And how do they keep up with the changing information or changing technologies that are coming up? And if teachers are to just stick to their old libraries, which often are not, books are not, new books are not released into such libraries, I mean, it becomes kind of difficult for the new kind of knowledge that we're learning to complement their studies, especially for the students. I don't know if Max, if you have you want to share some of your experiences when you went to those schools.
Okay, so for me, the experience has been so great. Getting to involve a lot of teachers and students to understand the whole internet ecosystem, where in fact we didn't even talk about the other aspect of the project, where we don't only go and do installations, but when we take them through a digital literacy course where we introduce them to all the concepts of digital literacy, cyberbullying, internet, what it does, the ethics of the internet, and all that. So it's a two-pill kind of project that we do. We introduce them to digital literacy, give them the whole feel of what it's out there, so that we bridge the knowledge gap. And then also once we give them the access or the platform, which is Kiwix, they experience it. So it's like theoretical and then applied way of accessing information. So for me, I think that we should all jump on this project and then make it a success. And I also believe that this project is a project that the whole of Africa can rope in and then put all our educational content on and then make an impact.
Yeah. Eugene is asking, how do we feel about making this impact? How do we feel knowing that you are making a positive impact? And student, for me, this is a very great deal. And you wouldn't understand. I've had the opportunity to participate in a number of educational projects prior to my coming into the Wikimedia movement. And most of the projects that I did in the past had to do with education, and I've had opportunity to visit a lot of schools in the remote areas, and it would amaze you. It would amaze you how real this is and how difficult accessing information is, especially for those schools. And there are a whole lot of schools out there, even in Ghana, this small Ghana, there is a whole chunk of schools that are lacking access to educational resources. It's so difficult for them. Teachers are not able to keep up with being on the internet because they are not able to afford it because it's very expensive to be online. And so having to do this, it feels so great. And listening or gathering the feedback from students, from teachers, I think it's a big deal. And when you come to even most of the schools in Ghana, even most primary schools or GHS do not have computer labs. So you would realize that the most people that get privileged to have computer labs sometimes are the secondary schools. So that is also another challenge. That's also another divide that we are talking about, because if students do not have access to these computer laboratories, I don't know how. And also sometimes you go to some certain schools, they have a number of computers, but you realize that half of it are not working. That's also another challenge that we face. And we want to make it more impactful. We don't want to limit the access by just computers, because we realize that the student to computer ratio is so huge. And so we would want to rather make it broader, rather make it more accessible. And that's why we're thinking about using the Raspberry Pi, because in that case, you can use your device, like a mobile device, because I think most people are now very familiar and are using smartphones, which is becoming more and more common. And so using a Raspberry Pi can increase the usability of Kiwix, especially in these areas. So Emmanuel Mingo is saying, Ruby rightly mentions that such that right in the capital, you see a lot of public schools not having the right resources to match students up to up to the 4IR. Yeah, that is true. Even in the capital. So you realize that the capital, even there's just a few people. That's even amazing. Yeah. I don't know if Max and Jesse have anything to add to it.
Okay, so
Okay, fourth industrial revolution.
okay, so I'd like to say something, just something small. I believe that Kiwix has now come to stay because we have a strong team leading this project. That's Maxwell and Nano too. They are keen on education and they want to propagate the word of Kiwix. Because of them, that's why we are telling the story now. And we believe that as the years come or during next year, our mini grant is surely going to grow up. Then we have more people participating in and engaging more schools in order to partake in this nice project that is being led by Maxwell and Ano too. So we are looking for the best for the future and everything that we do related to KWIX, and also empowering students to gain the skills and also um, able to compete globally with the world. Yeah, for KWIX, because of KWIX alone. So that's what I would say.
I want to add to what Jesse is saying. There's a whole team, and he mentioned Max and Otuo because Max and Otuo led the pilot for 2019. And so there are other people that have joined the team, the Kiwix team, and are implementing. And I want to acknowledge every volunteer who is part of this project. I can remember a few. We have Ibrahim, we have Maxwell, we have Otuo, we have Salom in the Volta region. We have Chris also in the Volta region. We have other people. Yeah, we have other people who are also supporting. I can't remember everyone's name, but I will just try to do that in the message box. Yeah, we acknowledge every volunteer who is part of this project and have supported us throughout. the project. Yeah.
Okay, Otto is asking a question.
Can you read a question, please?
So Otto is saying that I would want to know if OPA has a matter of expanding the project, engaging stakeholders in the educational ecosystem on how Kiwix4schools can be a national project. For example, the industry and GS, Ghana Education Service. Yeah. So as in looking at partnership with these governmental organizations or stakeholders to see whether Kiwix can be accepted into the Ghanaian educational system.
Yes, of course. If you listen to our last slide, we're very much interested in partnering with the government institutions, organizations that can help us to tailor suit the curriculum, the Ghanaian curriculum, into a compatible way that we can put it on Kiwix to make more information accessible by students. And you realize that there are a lot of educational resources that are coming now. Some are in the form of video lessons and all that. We want to be able to get to that point where we have our Ghanaian curriculum in the form of video lessons, different video lessons, and make it available to students for free. Because most of these apps that are coming now are paid, and I don't know how many of these students, in especially the remote areas, where now that we are talking about digital device, how the haves and have-nots, how do we bridge that gap? Because they are all competing for the same schools, they are all competing for the same resources, and so we have to be equitable. We have to be able to give a lending hand to be able to allow those that cannot afford to be able to compete with the growing competition that we have in the world today. Is there any other question?
Okay, so Ruby, I think you need to wrap up so that we end the session.
Okay, if Max, you have your last words.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe if you have any final thoughts, or
Max, your final thought.
I think I'm good. I'm good. I'm good with everything that has gone on so far. I'm even excited about the presentation.
Yeah. Jesse.
For me, I feel that the future is Kiwix marketing, and I feel that there is more because Kiwix in the future will be in partnership with Wikidata. We know that Wikidata is the heart of all knowledge, as we all know, and structuring Kiwix and how it's going to work for us is key for us in the future. So Kiwix is the future, and all of us should jump on board and support this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. And lastly, I'm so happy about this project and how it has come to stay after several pilots was conducted. And I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge these volunteers within the community. I want to acknowledge Otto Boachie Champong, the president of the Kumasi Wiki Hub. Kwabna Oforipeni is an elderly man within the community and very passionate about education. We also have Salong Daniel. He is in the Volta region. And I also want to acknowledge Hassan Abdul Banan. He is currently the president of the Tamale Wiki Hub, where we have a hub there. And then we also have Princess Lovia Tete from Hope, and we also have Abdullah Ibrahim, and we also have Princess Lovia Tete. So thank you all of you who strongly believed in this vision to take Kiwix to your respective regions. We really appreciate the effort, and we're looking forward to doing more in the coming year. Thank you. Bye.